Well, let's pivot into that topic, and unfortunately, it feels like a broken record in the public discord, or as I call it, the same old song and dance. Recently, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. made comments suggesting a link between video games and violence, calling for investigations and frankly perpetuated a tired narrative that it ain't something new.
You mentioned suicides, especially among teenagers. There is a debate over mental health and firearms in this country and the impact on children's health. Was there ever a discussion of looking at firearms and the health of our children related to that? So those two questions, pesticides and firearms. Thank you.
I'll answer the question. The firearms question, we're doing research. The firearms question is a complex question, and it's not an easy question. The violence is what we're concerned with. This sudden onset of violence that began in the 1990s, where people would do something that has never been happened in history, which is somebody walks into a school or a church or theater and starts shooting strangers. We had lots of guns when we were kids. We had comparably the same number of guns. Nobody was doing that. We had gun clubs at my school. Kids brought guns to school and were encouraged to do so. And nobody was walking into schools and shooting people. And this is not happening in other countries. Switzerland has a comparable number of guns as we do, and the last mass shooting they had was 23 years ago. We're having mass shootings every 23 hours. Oh, there are many, many things that happened in the 1990s that could explain these. One is the dependence on psychiatric drugs, which is, in our country, is unlike any other country in the world. It could be, there could be connections with video games, with social media. There are a number of things, and we are looking at that at NIH. So we are doing studies now. We're initiating studies to look at the correlation and the connection, potential connection between over-medicating our kids and this violence and these other possible.
Here we go again. Every time there's a public tragedy or a concern about youth mental health, video games inevitably get dragged into the conversation. Again, it's old topic, same old song and dance, as you said, and it's frustratingly ignorant. It really is. The sentiment that video games cause violence has been roughly debunked by countless studies over decades. Major scientific organizations, including the American Psychology Association, has stated that there's no causal link between playing violent video games in real-world aggression or violence. And I think that is what is more concerning is this kind of rhetoric, especially from public figures, crosses the line into implicitly seeking a guilty party, a convenient scapegoat when the real issues at play are far more complex. I'm not a political or psychologist or anything related expert, but I will try to break it down for as much as simple as I could understand. When politicians and public figures lash into video games as cause for violence, they're doing it deflecting from a host of systematic issues that genuinely impact mental health and social well-being. They're ignoring factors like access to mental health care, socioeconomic disparities, educational resources, guns, and familiar support structures. Pinning on video games is a way to avoid addressing these difficulties, politically and challenging topics. It's intellectually lazy, frankly. It's easier to point a finger at a popular medium that many adults do not understand than to engage with the nuances of realities of public health and safety. And it shows a profound lack of understanding of what video games actually are. For millions, they are a creative outlet, a social connection, a competitive sport, a storytelling medium, and a way to relax and unwind. The same old dance script always have the inverse of everything that I just listed. Now think about the positive impacts: enhanced problem-solving skills, improved hand-eye coordination, fostering teamwork in multiplayer games, even educational applications. But those aspects rarely get mentioned in these discussions. Hence, educational video games and software for having kids learning mathematics is for a direct example. And the idea that checking on violence games or checking violence in video games is somehow the solution for public mental health system is almost offensive to this point. If a government is truly concerned about public mental health, there are concrete evidence-based action that they can take. Funding mental health services, increase access to therapy, providing support for all those who are at risk, especially the young audiences of gamers. Instead, we get this ridiculous moral panic, a rehash of arguments from the 90s when Doom and Mortal Kombat were the villains. It's a cyclical, fear-driven narrative that frankly damaged the perception of a legitimate and thriving industry. It also discredits the intelligence of players. The vast majority of people who play violence video games are perfectly well-adjusted individuals who understand the difference between fiction and reality. It's insulting to suggest otherwise. And it creates an environment where actually researching the positive effects of gaming or even genuinely concerns about gaming addiction gets overshadowed by this entire baseless accusation. So when we heard these calls to check on violence in video games, let's recognize this for what it is: a distraction, a deflection, and a demonstration of ignorance that actively hinders meaningful discussion about public mental health and safety. I think that it's fair to say that our message to public figures: educate yourself, look at science, and focus on the real solution instead of reaching for the easiest, most convenient scapegoat. And for years and decades, this same assault at dance really need to be stopped play.